Hi. So today I'm going to teach you about do-while loops in Java. You may be wondering why I put the cat there, and you see what he's saying. People always say, what do cats do while people are at work or that sort of thing? Okay. So dummy proofing your input, or it's also called validation. Validation is the formal way to call dummy proofing. Say you want to input a cricket score, but you want to make sure it's a reasonable score. So the score must not be less than 0 or greater than 400. I looked this up to see what a reasonable cricket score would be for the maximum. And Brian Lara, who was a famous cricketer, he once scored 400, and that was the greatest score ever scored in a match. So that's what our maximum score will be. So when we do validation, we want to make sure that the user does not input anything nonsensical. So we're going to input the score again and again. And if it's wrong, we keep inputting again until the user gets it right. So we're going to need a loop. Should we use a for loop? No, because we don't know how many times we need to repeat the loop. Depends on how long the user takes to type in the right thing. Should we use a while loop? We could, and it would work, but we would have to do input above the loop and then input in the loop again. So the best solution is actually what is called a do-while loop. I'm quickly going to show you a very simple do-while loop before we go to our question. So here's my NetBeans, and I'm just going to show you a very simple problem. Say we've got an integer called number. We set it equal to 0. And now we're going to do a do while. So it's do, curly brackets, enter. Now everything between the two curly brackets is going to be repeated. And at the end, after the second curly bracket, you put while, and you put your brackets. That's where the condition will go. And a semicolon on the end. That ends the while, the do while. So inside the while loop, I'm just going to go number plus plus to increment the number. And I'm going to print the number. And all I want to do is keep printing the number as long as number is less than 10. Say number less than 10, as that is my condition. That's all we're going to do in this program. So let's move that up to the top and run it. It's slow. And here is my 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Now, why did it also print 10? Because we said number less than 10. Well, think about it. Before the loop started, we set number equal to 0. Then we set number plus plus. So number already went to 1. Then we printed the 1. And we carried on like that because the condition was false. Number was, true. Number was less than 1 is less than 10. That is true. So the while loop, the do while loop keeps operating as long as the condition is true. But when number became 10, we went from 9, number plus plus, it became 10, and then we printed the 10, we would have tested, well, number is less than 10. Is 10 less than 10? No, that is false. And the loop would have ended. That's why we still printed the 10 at the end. Let me go back to my presentation. And we're going to do a question. So here's an exercise. You can call it cricket score. You need to input a cricket score. As long as the user inputs an invalid score, less than 0 or greater than 400, make them input again. And then display the score once it is valid. So you're going to do a do-while loop to do this. If you want to try it out for yourself, please pause the video now, and I'm going to show you the solution. So we've got int score equals 0. Then we've got our do while. So do, curly bracket, we input the score equals integer.parseInt option pane.show input dialog, and then a message, input your score, and we tell the user between 0 and 400. And we will do that while, brackets, score is less than 0, or, put the double or there, which is more efficient, score is greater than 400. And don't forget the semicolon on the end. And then we print the score is plus score. I'm going to show you how this works. I've got the program here. So let's again push it to the top. And we're going to run it. And we get asked, input your score between 0 and 400. I'm going to say -5. And you see, nothing happens, no printing. I just get asked again, input your score between 0 and 400. I type 600. Nothing. Input your score again. And why is that happening? Because my while loop is true. -5 is less than 0. 600 is greater than 400. So my loop keeps running. And I get asked again. Now I'm going to type in a valid score, 200. And then the program stops operating. The print happens, so the score is 200, gets printed at the bottom there. So that little program works nicely. Let's go back to the presentation. And we're going to talk about how you validate a name. Users really enter stupid things sometimes. You might ask them for a name and they type in a number, like the example below here. Or they might type in nonsense like Tumisho or Clifford. So we've got to stop that. So how do we do it? Here's an exercise to practice. You're going to input a cat's name. Call the program input cat name. You input a cat's name. If the name contains any non-letter characters, e.g. a number or a special character, then the user must input the name again and again until it is correct. It says here, create a method for the validation and display the name once it is correct. So I'm going to show you the solution here. Please pause it if you want to try this out. Remember that this will need a bit of grade 11 work. You're going to need the character.isLetter method. So here's my solution. I've got a string called cat name. I start my do while, do, curly bracket, cat name equals option pane.show input dialog, input the cat's name, close the curly bracket for the do while, then I put my while, and I put a not, that exclamation mark is a not, check name, brackets, cat name. So I'm going to call this is a method I'm calling the check name method, which is below here. Using the cat name that's just been inputted, and the check name method is going to check whether it's valid or not, return a true if it's good, and a false if it's bad. So if it's bad, I'm going to say not false, which I'm going to be true, and I'm going to re-input the cat name. So as long as once they input a valid cat name, we will print the cat's name is and cat name. Let's look at the method, public static Boolean, check name in the brackets string in. So we've got a parameter called string in. It's a static method because it's being called by the main method, which is static, and it's a Boolean because it returns a true or a false. We've got Boolean flag equals true. Now a flag is just a little variable. You set it true initially, so we're assuming the name is good. And only if we find a bad character, we will set it false. It's like a flag in a race. When the flag is up, everybody knows good, we can race. Flag goes down, stop, something's happened, got to stop. Stop racing. It's like that's what a flag is for. It's either true or false. So what we do, we've got Boolean flag equals true. And then we've got a for loop from int I equals 0 to I less than in.length. In is the name that we're testing. Remember, it's the parameter, string in. So in.length, we're going to go from character 0 to the last character in the name, just the one less than n.length, I++. And then if not character dot is letter, n.char at I, n.char at I returns the character in the name at position I. It'll start at 0 and end at the last letter in the name. If the character is not a letter, we will set the flag to false. We found a bad name, a bad letter in the name, and we will set the flag false. And then at the end of the method, we will just return the flag. So that will return a true or false. So let's go and test this program. We're going to run it here. Same program I've got here. And we're going to input a cat's name. Let's type in Fred 3. Nothing happens. No printing. I just get asked again, input a cat's name. So I type in 5. No good. Input the cat's name again. I type in George. That's great. Program stops and I get the cat's name is George. Now you'll agree this is a very little program I'm showing you, but remember this would just normally be part of a bigger program, okay? So validation would be something you would do in your PATs, for example, to check that data entered by a user is valid. You could use a similar idea as this. Okay, and that's all for today. I hope this little video has helped you. So please subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.